I want to talk about what complaining does to your energy. When you complain, you lose 30% of your energy. Your energy, we all have a biofield, and that biofield is our physiology. Now, our physiology has to do with the correlation between the mind and body, the interaction between the mind and body. And as we know in science, our heart is sending more messages to our mind than our mind is sending messages to our heart or our body. Okay? So our heart very much represents the body. Okay? So, when we are complaining, a lot of times I see it in people's biofield. They have a lot of compressed signals that they are sending out. And what that means, compressed signals, is very much we are all made of vibrations, okay? Me sitting here talking, I'm sending out signals, I'm sending out vibrations that creates a resonance, okay? Now, based on my biofield really determines how elongated, impactful the vibration is, or how sharp, static, and rigid the vibration is. And the sharp, static, and rigid vibrations tend to be less impactful. Usually they're associated with stress or with disease or illness or any sort of arrhythmia in the mind and the body. It doesn't create a resonance. For example, when we sing, okay? When we are in this elongated, okay, in horizontal, vertical, spherical, we tend to have more resonance. Resonance is impact. When we are not, you could say, projecting from a vertical, horizontal, spherical, okay, kind of spin, we are very static, we are very rigid, we are less impactful. We don't have vibrato going on. It's getting trapped, it's blocked, it's stuck, okay? So, the same thing goes with our thoughts, and the same thing goes with our biofield. And like I said, the biofield has to do directly with our physiology, that mind-body interaction that we have going on all the time. But a lot of us, we think that we can just push our way into what we want, whatever. But in the Aquarian age, that's no longer going to work because everything is getting transparent. So what does not have integrity will be apparent, and it's going to be, we could say, not a player in the game. Okay, nobody wants that player in the game anymore because it's like we've been there, we've done that in the Piscean age, and it's not going to work because the Aquarian age is about invention, innovation. And then the millennials are all about innovation, being inventive. Either it's in engineering, or either it's in art, either it's in our institutional model and rearranging the institutional model. These millennials are wanting to get to clarity about things, but the lack of integrity, it just makes everything confusing. And we don't have that time, okay? Millennials, I just don't have that time of day, okay? I need to get to the facts. I need to get to what is real and what is not real, so I'm not scrambled in non-reality, okay? Because being inventive and being a genius, being innovative, is not about participating in a bunch of non-realities. And we know something as non-reality, as Yogi Bhajan would say, is when we are losing all of our energy. So when we are participating in that confusion because we're in the lack of integrity, we're desperate, we low self-worth, we're confused. We second guess ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust other people. That's kind of non-reality, okay? We don't have intuition. We, have to sleep our way to the top, and all these kinds of things is confusion. Okay, that's not innovation. That's not inventive. And the millennials are very much about paving way for a inventive, creative, remodeled society, from our economic sort of structure all the way to institutional, social, all these things. We are carving out the frameworks right now, but we don't have time for confusion. So when we are complaining, okay, I see it a lot of times in people. We lose 30% of our energy, and then we complain that we don't have enough energy. We say, I don't have enough energy to do this. We all have an abundant amount of energy. It's just a lot of times we're constantly losing it, then losing it, then losing it, and by the time we're at 12, by the time it's 12, we, in the evening, we're very much like, because from the morning all the way up until 12, even a lot of times while we're sleeping, we're still not in the parasympathetic restorative breath. Okay, what is that parasympathetic restorative breath? When we're sleeping, that is where we experience healing. That is where we cleanse the day off. Okay, it's a purification, but a lot of us, we can't even make it to that wavelength, and that wavelength is very much an elongated, rhythmic, balanced, creative, insightful, intuitive wavelength, and it has a very elongated vibration. Okay, a lot of the sharp vibrations, they sting, but they don't necessarily get us where we want to be. Okay, so when we talk about our biofield, it can be very lucky or it can be very unlucky. So in my own personal research of discovering what is radiance, magnetism, I've come across the biophoton. And biophoton is simply all living things. They are basically emitting light. Okay, and research has shown that participants in a form of movement medicine, such as Tai Chi, Qigong, a form of yoga, a form of breath practice, a form of like Reiki, or a body massage, or a form of healing ritual, such as a letting go ritual, making peace ritual, forgiveness ritual. The biophotons in the body, basically, they light up more so, okay, than the average person who's just, pushing it and not just pushing it, okay? So these biophotons in our biofield, it directly has to do with that physiology, that mind-body medicine that we give to ourselves, that mind-body medicine. Okay, and there are many pathways to that medicine, like I said, movement medicine, because physiology has to do with your body. Okay, so it's not just meditating. It has to do with the way your mind is interacting with your body is interacting with the mind, creating this balance with each other. Okay, so a lot of us, we participate in really heavy physical exercise, but it doesn't connect with our mind. Like, we're running and our mind is totally checked out. So we're running, we're listening to music, so we're not really working on the mind. We don't get these interactions between the heart and the mind. And when we have those interactions through our physiology, okay, like I said, mind, body, movement medicine, we get consciousness, we get more aware of ourselves. Like when we're doing yoga, we get aware of our emotions. For example, emotion from our childhood comes up and we're like, whoa, where did that come from? It was something that was stored within our physical body, and since we're participating in this mind-body medicine, now we're becoming aware of it. We're unlocking it, we're unblocking it. Okay, but when we're just running or those kinds of things, a lot of times we don't necessarily have the spaciousness to receive these hidden messages that are stored within our body, okay, within our body. So a lot of these hidden messages, we think they're in the mind, but they're in the body. Okay, they're in the body. Okay, the memories, the childhood, it's stored within the body. Okay, and the mind is like a great almost like an amphitheater. It amplifies. Okay, it amplifies and amplifies to the point where it can create mental intrigues, like the tiniest memory. The mind can amplify it, and like an amphitheater, it can create a narrative. Like when you go to the amphitheater, usually there's a play going on. Okay, there's a big drama going on, and that's the mind. There's one memory, and it kind of spins off into this whole drama, this whole narrative that you are watching in the mind. That's what the mind does. Amplify, amphitheater. Okay? So a lot of times these dramas and these plays are not necessarily reality, because it confuses you, it scrambles you, and that's how we know it's not real. Okay? But when we connect with the heart, we say the heart is a stronger electromagnetic field. The heart has a direct impact on the biofield, a stronger impact on the bioframe than the mind. So that's why meditators who don't have that body connection, they may have we call this the Zen, but moving it through the body is how we actually get into the nervous system. So when we are in, we call it changed environments, we don't just, lose ourselves because we don't have a strong enough nervous system to be able to handle these changed environments. So that's why meditators went from, let's just all meditate for 8 hours sitting on our butt to, let's meditate, let's do yoga, let's do Chai Chi or, some karate or some martial arts, because we have to get that state of clarity into the nervous system. Or the changing environments, we're going to lose our mind. Meaning our nervous system is going to freak out, okay? Because it's all in projection, mental projection, but it's not actually in a magnetic, I like to say magnetic pulsation. That's kind of what I want to say. So how this has to do with complaints, okay? So I wanted to describe a little bit about your wonderful biofield, and a lot of times it's associated with your aura. Okay, and think of the biophotons as all living things, such as a leaf. If you put it on a spectrum, there's a certain spectrum. Like you can perceive light. Like there's certain spectrums that can perceive certain lights that other spectrums cannot. Okay, so you can see this light. It is illuminating. Okay, and that is energy. Okay, pure energy. The source of pure energy. And that is our radiance, that's our magnetism. And when you look under like the scope, you see this living thing and you see this biophoton of these biophotons just so luminous. And you can't, like I can't, look at that plant and just see it, or I can't look at that person and just see the way if I was looking under that scope thing, okay? But we sense it, okay? And that's magnetism, that's radiance. And that's what the Aquarian age is all about. So when we complain, Yogi Bhajana said, we get our aura pretty dirty. And our aura is our biophoton, our biofield, okay? That's our aura. It's basically our home. Our aura is our home. And our complaints make it dirty. And we lose a lot of luck. So our aura is naturally there to bless us. Okay, it blesses us with these biophotons that basically illuminate and are so attractive and alluring and majestic that they draw to us what we need. But when we dirty it up, we basically take away our luck, okay? And then we become unlucky. We become foul. We become what we see as unattractive, okay? Where we can't seem to attract the relationship, the job, the investor, this and that, because we're unattractive. Now, we may be superficial in the way of, we cake ourselves with all of this illusion, but the Aquarian age is, if you do not it's your aura, and you can't fake your aura. You can dress your body in a jumpsuit of, this, but if your aura is a dump yard, is very dirty, then that's what people are going to see. Okay, and that's what the Aquarian age is about. So the whole old way of, you hustle, you hassle, you deceive, you manipulate, you just desperate. That's not going to work, because when you look at that aura, the picture of that person and their aura, they're not lit up with creativity, with innovation, with inventiveness. Okay? So when we talk about a true inventive and a creative person is illuminating. Okay, and this is an actual practical thing. It's not some woo-woo. Illuminating in the biofield these incredible magnetic and radiant biophotons that are basically all carrying the message. My physiology is authentic, it is free, and it is neutral. Okay, and that's simply what movement medicine is. It brings us into being authentic, free, which is the same as sovereign, self-responsible, and into neutrality, which is not participating in the amphitheater of all of these dramas and plays that spin off into our demise. Okay, our demise. We lose ourselves into that kind of whatever confusion we're indulging in. Okay, so the complaint, for example, whatever's in your aura is a lot of times in your house. So if somebody has a dirty aura, go to their house. Okay, check out their relationships. Okay, so Yogi Bhajan is the dirty from complaint, and complaint is one of the most dirtiest thing we can do to ourselves. Okay, so it's like a house. You go in that house and you're just like, oh my god, there's dirt on the walls, and it's like all over the floor, and it's like, what is going on here? It's like this house has not been cleaned in years. Like, whoa, like dust bunnies everywhere. It's like you walk in and you immediately like, oh, it's not a mood enhancer. Okay, it's not a mood enhancer, and that usually reflects what's going on in that person's aura. Okay, and a dirty house a lot of times is, the more complaints we have, the dirtier our house tends to be. It's kind of interesting. Okay, now when I look at people, and this is the Aquarian millennial. Okay, so I'm not just alone. The Aquarian breed, which for a lot of we are as millennials, we can sense these things. For example, we look at people and there's just something like about them that is just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like, ooh. A lot of times these people, we see them and they're complaining about money, or they're complaining about they're not getting enough sex or too much sex, or complaining about their roommate and their living situation. They're complaining about this and that and that and that and that and that. So basically what happens is all of their energy is just zapped away, and they become, instead of what we think of we're naturally what we call an expander. When we think of an expander person, an expander is somebody who is inspired and creatively impactful. Okay, that means you're expanding out. You're creating this vibration, and a vibration is moving everywhere around, vertical, horizontal, spherical, okay, and a spin. Okay, when we zap all of our energy, what happens is we become like, what is this? I don't even know the word. There's a word for it, but I do not know it off the top of my head. Basically, we are just pulling in just kind of energy. Like I don't know, there's a word. It's like we're sucking in. We're just like sucking in our environment. We're squeezing it in. We're sucking it in. And that's what happens a lot of times when we lose our luck, when we lose our radiance, our magnetism to all of this, the complaints. instead of being an expander, a very creatively impactful resonance that is just alone, is just so like attractive, it's so elongated, it's has this aura that is really wide and deep. We become this very shrunken, rigid, static, and sharp energy that just like is trying to suck in kind of the environment. And a lot of times those type of people we associate as, you just surround them and you just feel like maybe they sucked in a little bit of your aura. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, that's not what's actually going on, but it feels like that. And that's when it comes to, we have to solidify, fortify our aura. Okay, we call it consolidate our aura, so that we are never feeling like someone, you know, sucking in our aura, because that's what happens when people don't have that magnetism, because everybody knows the job, the relationship, the investor, it's all magnetism. And people know that either somewhere in, you know, we all know that. And so that's why these kinds of people kind of wherever they go, we need an extra breath, that kind of thing, you know? So when we think of the presence, the magnetic, it's usually that that exhale that extends wide and deep and vertical, horizontal, spherical, that is really the presence, the ambience that draws in. Okay, so a lot of times we're trying to draw it in because we need something, we want something, but usually it's that draws it in. Okay, so it's kind of, we think of kind of interesting. So that's what I see from a lot of people who have been participating in that complaining for a long time. So when we think about the Aquarian age, so like I said in another video, it's about integrity. So what we're seeing out there is anybody's like fetishes, addictions, dirty deals, their, you know, perversion, all of that is coming to light very quickly too. Either it's a politician, anybody really, it's coming to light. Because in order for us to truly make progress in the Aquarian age, we basically have to have it installed that we can no longer participate in that cop-out, or, you know, I'm just going to do that just to get what I want. Desperate, I'm going to do that to get what I want. We can no longer do that because it's not constructive. So it's the Aquarian age giving us this gift that's kind of pushing everybody to actually, you got to do the work. You have to actually do the caliber work, okay? And before, it was like, yeah, you know, I can just be, you know, do the dirty deed and I'll get it. I'll sell my soul and I'll get it. But that's no longer working, okay? Because it's not constructive, that sort of way of manifestation that has been going on in this Piscean age. The manifestation is directly with your caliber. And a caliber, you cannot fake it. You cannot make it false. You cannot put a jumpsuit of a high caliber in you, because eventually that people will discover there's something underneath that jumpsuit that has not the jumpsuit at all. Okay? So this is, for a lot of people, it can be alarming, and that's why some people are like, what do I do? Like, I don't have the magnetism. Like, what? I don't have it. I just, you know, that magnetism, that biofield we call, I said in another video, being strategically majestic. Some people are like, I don't have that. But it is something you can cultivate. And that's the Aquarian age. All of these, like I've mentioned so many times, all of these geniuses that we think of throughout time in any sort of field, from math all the way to art, music, they all had it in their caliber, okay? They all had it in their aura, okay? They've cultivated, a lot of times they've cultivated for many lifetimes. So when we look at a lot of these millennials that are just like, I want it, I want to do this, and I'm going to try it for a month. That's not a caliber, okay? A caliber is something that you have been fortifying, you have been consolidating, basically training for, a lot of times for many lifetimes. But since we are in this age right now where we have the opportunity to access tools and knowledge and resources that we have never before for a very long time, that we can very quickly place it in our aura, place it in our caliber, what we need basically installed within our presence in order to actually get that thing, whatever it may be, okay? So this is kind of what we think of like the ancient sort of esoteric teachings on attracting prosperity, these kinds of things, abundance in any forms, okay? It's like wealth of the universe. But when we complain, and when we think of prosperity and abundance, we think of good luck. You're in synchronicity, you can be at the right place at the right time, you are very blessed, you create blessings in your life, you're very in sync with the universe, and you just very aligned, very aligned. That's a very lucky person, and that's a prosperous and abundant person, okay? Now, a complaining person is very much a person that is, it's like rejecting. It's like rejecting. We're rejecting the abundance of the universe because we're rejecting opportunities. Because we're rigid, we're static, we're sharp. Okay? And that kind of wavelength usually is it doesn't have the intuitive knowing of the bigger picture. So, for example, we may not want this opportunity that comes our way, okay? Maybe it requires a lot of work, a lot of diligence, a lot of endurance, these kinds of things. We're like, I don't want that. But since we don't have the intuitive knowing of the bigger picture, we don't realize that opportunity actually is going to get me something I need within me, okay? Like a teaching or just some sort of insight I require in order for me to actually get into what we call these next levels of manifestation. So we find ourselves rejecting this, reject that, and then we find ourselves kind of stagnant. But the universe is always giving these opportunities, okay? Giving us tests as well, testing our worth. And it's kind of happening simultaneously as well. And when we complain, like I said, we're just rejecting. And we're sending ourselves like bad luck. And I see a lot of people sending themselves bad luck through just not recognizing that it's your elevated sense of worth that creates that field. Like I said, it's like an energetic field that happens to be at the right place at the right time. And it doesn't need to take years or decades either. And that's what people think. Like, it's just going to take me years or decades. Because a lot of times that aura is so dirty that it can't, it's like very, it's kind of like it almost seems like very unlikely, okay? It's from possible to like unlikely, okay? And that's what happens when we complain. We make opportunity unlikely for us. So, and what I like to do to kind of work on complaint, because a complaint is a thing we all have, because we all have this poverty consciousness. It's like everywhere. I mean, rich, poor, it don't matter. Poverty consciousness is everywhere. You can see people who are at what we call this higher status, and they still complain about, I don't have a love life. My family is doing this to me, and all these kinds of things. Even in, people who are, in poverty, you see them complaining as well. So it doesn't really matter where you're at. So what I like to do to kind of like work on complaining, it's kind of like you have to train for it, like within your private space, so that when you're out there in the world, you can pass the test. You're always being tested. The universe is showing you if this is something you really want to embark upon, you're going to have to pass these certain tests, and a lot of them you're going to, you may not like, but they're going to initiate you into a greater sense of self. Okay? And if you want that, meaning if you want to be on this quest, it's kind of like a requirement. So a lot of people think to obtain this higher love, I can just get married to this Tom, Dick, and Harry, and then just have babies with him, and then while I'm waiting for my love of the life to come in. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, a lot of people think like that. It doesn't work like that. Or I can just be completely miserable and so complaining at this job while I just, wait for this other job to come through. It doesn't work like that, okay? So, I'm just gonna go with how I work on, complaining. So I like to do it's kind of like, I want to say the word, kind of daunting sort of Kundalini sets or meditations that I have to hold poses for a very long time, and I'm just it's tempting. I don't want to do it, because a part of complaining, when you get to know kind of what you complain about, me, it's patience. So you'll get to know about patience with myself. So by working on complaining, I'm so tempted to complain every day and doing these kinds of poses where I'm oh my gosh, I don't have patience anymore. I don't want to do this. What, that's complaining. I don't want to do this. It's like when you're cleaning your house. I don't want to do this. 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 I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Dirty. It makes your aura dirty. But by actually doing something where you're basically challenging that aspect that we all have, you are improving your response to it. Because we're always going to have things that happen where we're gonna immediately complain about what that person cut me off, and we spend the whole car ride just complaining about that. Okay, but when we actually are consciously working on that through a practice of it, okay, we are actually developing a constructive response. So then when we're out there in the real world and we have things that are unfair and seeming injustice, we can respond in a constructive way, a way where we're building a character. We're not losing all of our energy. We're building a dignified character. It's almost like a testing of ourselves. The world is testing of ourselves and seeing if we're going to complain about this, or going to complain about that, and complain about this and that. And basically our response, our awareness, our consciousness is what basically creates that character behind that caliber. So that character behind that caliber is, we call the wealth of the world, really. Even these yogis talked about the wealth of the world inside of yourself. That's kind of what we become. And therefore, we just have this alluring, attractive presence that is authentic, it's free, it's neutral, and it has that vibration, that resonance, okay? That's what character and caliber creates, this strong resonance of just expansion, not sucking in, because you're just so lacking energy, you're just trying to suck anything in. But you have such this powerful pull on the environment around you, okay? This powerful pull, this pull on the world around you, that you get responses. And that's why everybody is really they're wanting a response. They're wanting the universe, they're wanting the planet to respond to them. And whatever quest or a question they have, they're wanting a response. And that's how we very much create that space within us to actually receive that response. A response is not, I'm just going to be complaining and lack of energy and then, eventually it'll come to me kind of thing. It's you allowing you to come to you. That is just so weird, but It's allowing you to come to you. And I'm talking about the version of yourself, the character and caliber that you are holding in your vision. Allow that to come to you now, by developing it now, by cultivating it now. And that's when we cultivate it, we develop it now. That's how we actually create what we call, not 2 decades away, I'm 50 years old and I just did these things, waiting. No, it's how we actually get ourselves into position. So we think of getting ourselves into position as like a yoga pose. You're holding, the warrior pose, getting yourself in position. Okay, so but the thing is, we have to work on, before we can even get into position, we have to work on everything that is pulling us out of position, such as the complaining and I'm just going to go marry Tom, Dick, and Harry because I don't really believe I'm worthy of someone, so I'm going to just do that until my Prince Charming comes around, or I'm just going to stay in this, this job and, just do that and hopefully something else comes along, that kind of thing. If you're losing so much energy, you're not in position. Being in position with yourself and with that version of you, the character and caliber you're wanting to cultivate and develop within yourself, getting into position is accessing that wealth of the universe and finding tools, whatever it may be, physiology, your movement medicine, body-mind medicine, to get you in collaboration with the wealth of the universe. Okay? And therefore you become a knowledgeable person. You become a flexible person. You become a person who is aware of their surroundings, is conscious of their surroundings, seeing things as an opportunity, seeing things as a test. Okay? Seeing things as being initiated. And when we have that sort of mindset, that's the mind and the body of being blessed and blessing yourself and learning and growing, and talk about strengthening your magnetic presence, really. So I'm just going to leave you guys with this, and hopefully that this has expanded your mind and has brought you closer to you could say the success within yourself. So again, everything I talk about, it is very much what we call like Eastern sort of mind or practices. Okay, the way my mind works is very much lifetimes. I view myself and other people a lot of times from looking at it from the picture of lifetimes and what has been going on in these lifetimes and the themes and the message, the what's learned and the phases and the levels, all these kinds of things. It's like how I process this experience here and now is through the eyes of lifetimes, and how lifetimes we are developing a caliber, and we're developing a character, okay, or the lack thereof. Yeah, so I'll leave you guys with this.